Welcome to the Elevate Your Equity podcast, where we, as married busy professionals, leverage real estate investing to unlock the 3+1 degrees of freedom: health, location, time, and financial. And today we've got a power couple, an absolute power couple on the call. We have Mike and Kristy Desrosiers. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Very good. Thank you. We're happy to be here.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you on, and thank you for joining us today. So we'll go ahead and start like we always do with most of our guests and ask you guys, how did you guys get involved in real estate investing? How did you fall down this black hole that is investing in real estate?
Yeah, it is truly like a big vacuum. It kind of sucks you in when you start getting started at it. So we've been involved in single family for quite some time. You know, I've been doing it all my life. We've had single family rentals and doing some single family flips. We got involved in some of the education networks, particularly with RE Mentor. So we came through and several years back and just came to that, that one free seminar, right? And then you start, but it was just a natural draw for us. It was like that vacuum just kind of sucking you in because we knew the power of single family and the power of rentals and, especially real estate. Being in California, we've seen incredible equity built from real estate over the years. And to start hearing about the multifamily and getting into these large buildings, like 100 units, which seemed so impossible back then, but, there's a way to do that. And it just was an immediate magnet for us. And so we immediately signed up for the next course and then kind of continued through that education and spent a good year just going through all the educating ourselves and being involved in as much as we could. Kristy and I both did it together.
That's incredible. So did you guys have any natural affinity to this? Did you have any rental properties in the past, or was this something that you just kind of fell into searching for passive income and getting coached up?
Yes, we've had multiple rentals. Still do, have rentals in California that we've managed, over the time. And I've had that for quite some time. And when we first got into the multifamily, I actually ended up buying, we bought a property down in Las Vegas, just, at the very beginning, kind of trying to learn, because the whole concept of owning out of state was a little foreign too. And, you're trying to scratch your head on that. And like, okay, I'm going to buy this apartment building out of state and I'm going to run it from not even being there. And it just doesn't sound right. So I bought a small apartment building there in Vegas and actually self-managed it just to kind of jump in and feel the pain, so to speak, right away and see how many problems is this really going to be. But it turned out really very well. It was good.
Yeah. I actually think that's a really important thing right there that I want to touch on is I love the attitude of you're like, okay, we're going to give this a shot. And I know this is maybe painful because I don't know what I don't know. Could you speak about that a little bit? You have so many things going on, but I just love that attitude. And I want to explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, well, the attitude comes from, the old Howard Hughes story, who, one of the wealthiest men in the world back in the day and wanted to buy an airlines, right? And he took a job as a baggage checker at the airline, loading bags into the airplane because he wanted to feel all the pain and see all the problems that were going on with the airlines before he went out and bought this, $1 billion purchase or whatever it cost back then. And it was kind of the same thing. It's like before I really got into these large apartment buildings out of state, I wanted to feel like I really wanted to see what the problems were going to be. And I know I wasn't planning on self-managing any of them, but by jumping in and doing some self-management, I'm going to feel even more pain, right? And I'm going to get all the late night calls of a clogged toilet and the refrigerator that's broken and all those things, which has not really happened too much, but a little bit. Yeah. But on a small building, it's manageable. And on a large one, it's obviously not. But I wanted to see what that was all about, and just makes me feel a lot more confident going into a larger property.
Right. Of course, especially when you're looking to take or accept investor funds, right? It gives you the extra confidence that you know exactly what's happening in these properties and you understand the nuances that the property manager is going through, and down at the asset management level, you understand it really well. So I think that's a very important thing. So I want to pivot just a little bit real quick. And I wanted to ask you about you two working together in real estate. Did this happen organically? Did you both have the idea to get involved in real estate, or did you take the idea to your wife, or maybe did Kristy come to you? Let's talk about that a little bit on, because I think we may have glossed over that a bit.
Honestly, Kristy was the inspiration to make it happen. I mean, yeah, right. Right. You look.
Oh
at
yeah,
her.
that's right. It's like my wife is a visionary. So yeah.
Yeah. It was Kristy that got me down to that first class. I'm kind of like hem-hawing about it. I don't know those things, right? Because I'm a tough sell. I'm the guy that sits in the back row of the timeshare presentation with his arms crossed, shaking his head the entire time, right? There's nobody selling me. It's not going to happen. And Kristy's, a lot more like, hey, maybe we'll learn something. Let's go, check this out. Mm-hmm. And then even going the next level, it took some convincing for me. I didn't buy in that way because I am that guy with the arms crossed, behind in the back of the room. But it certainly piqued a lot of interest. And, so yeah, and with conversations with Kristy to help push me and, give me the confidence or us to pursue it further. And continued. And yeah, she's walked me off the ledge several times. So
of course.
Yeah, and the power of Facebook, it was a Facebook ad that he saw initially. And it just, Mike is a visionary. He's the idea guy. When I first met him, I said, man, you should sit in a room with no windows and a door and just have people come in constantly, and you can just shoot him your ideas, because he actually has really great, he has great ideas all the time. He's a visionary. He can see things, and he's always on top of technology also. So he can fix anything in our house. He can do electrical. He's replaced the windows, the flooring. He's done so much. So to me, this was a no-brainer. That segueing into multifamily would just be so much easier. He's not physically doing the work, but he knows about he has the background information and the knowledge. So to me, it was a no-brainer for him to do that.
And Mike and Kristy, so prior to this spark and prior to you, Kristy, kind of say, hey, let's check this, seminar out. What were you guys, can you share what you guys were doing? And also, can you share what transferable skills that you brought from the things that you were doing before into real estate investing, and how you've been able to leverage each other's strengths?
I'm still working at W-2, so I unfortunately I don't do real estate full time. That's in our future goals for sure. I've always been handy. I like doing things around the house and outside, so nothing really scares me. So I really enjoy learning all the time. I like to do some woodworking, so that is stuff that I like to do, and Mike has done a lot more than I have. Just coming into this together, it was, to me, pretty natural, because I felt like we could do this really well together. And I think, when you have a spouse that doesn't like whatever the other spouse wants to do, it's really difficult for that person to excel. So we're both a very good support system for each other.
Yeah, we're both on that same page. I mean, Kristy has probably 1,000 hours or more in HDTV, fix and flip, and Joanna Gaines, and we're in contracted a property in Waco, and she's so excited to go. Or we purchased a property in Waco, and she's so excited to go there. But we are going there next month. But the interest is there, right? She just loves watching that and the building process and all of that, how that's all done. And I also do too. Kristy comes kind of more of the executive admin side of the world, right? That's kind of been her W-2. And so she has that kind of analytical side of getting things done and creating lists and systems and, and all of that. So that's been very helpful. She's currently, working on one of our properties right now and building some spreadsheets together to track all the, the financial data from our original business plan to where it's actually happening now, as well as adjusting rents and, making sure our rent comps are all on top. We've just been working on that over the last few days. Kristy has. And for me, I've been an entrepreneur all my life with multiple different businesses. I had an advertising marketing company for 35 plus years, or a long time, as well as other businesses as well. But that comes from, the marketing and advertising is a big part of it. It does transfer into multifamily, because it's where my strengths have come has been kind of more on the investor relations side and the capital raising side. And that kind of comes from that marketing, side of things, right? So I feel very comfortable talking with people of all financial levels. And, I look at my conversations, I can look at it as an investor because I've also been an investor all of my life. And so, it's very important to, the way you talk to your investors to make them feel comfortable with, the way you approach, it, and that you're always looking out for the investor money benefit and so forth.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. And I think that that's very well said. And I can see both sides of the equation here too. And I can see how, it seems like Kristy is more on the I guess the organization or the numbers and kind of like the back end. And then Mike, you're more front facing, wanting to work with the people and doing the marketing and building relationships, right? And what I wanted to talk about is how you guys fell into those roles, because again, I think we glossed over it, and maybe it's something that just did get glossed over because you guys knew each other so well. But how did you guys know that those were your roles that you needed to do? Because, usually when you start a real estate venture or when you start something up on the side, there's usually one person that's involved in taking over everything and doing everything at one time. And then there's a moment in time in which you realize that you can't handle it all or you shouldn't be doing it all, right? And so can you talk a little bit about maybe, was there that transition in place, or, maybe talk a little bit about how you guys were able to break up your duties among each other?
Sure.
He's still doing pretty much everything.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
I'm not do everything guy, but that's a little bit of a control side of me, right? That I just, like I said, I dive in, I want to feel that pain. And I just, after I figure it out, then I can think about divvying out duties. But I also, being, self-employed in a company for so long, I do have more time. And COVID kind of hit my company a little bit more. It's, still in business, but it is running kind of on autopilot. I am focused on real estate, probably 95%. But I have the time to be able to do that, where Kristy's on a W-2 and does not have that, flexibility. So she has to kind of dodge her day job a bit. And I hope her boss isn't watching this, but in order to make things work.
Well, you're on my lunch hour, so that works.
Yeah.
There you go. It's perfect timing.
But we are figuring it out still. I mean, honestly, there's been there are a lot of moving parts in this multifamily, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
And Kristy tries to kind of jump in where she feels she can and wants to, and that's been very helpful. And also we partner up with some good, very efficient partners that have a lot of experience in different areas as well too. So that makes it much easier.
That's excellent. I love this.
Yeah. And can you guys share a tough moment that you went through, that you overcame, that you're proud of? Share with our listeners so that they can, learn from a nice power couple like you guys.
Oh, I have one.
Okay.
So probably 2 or 3 months ago, Mike works 7 days a week. He is in his office 7 days a week. He is making sure that the investors are getting the returns that they need. He's making sure that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. And at one point he just said, gosh, I just don't know if all this is worth it. And that's when something inside of me just said, you know what, whenever somebody gets to this point, there is some really good stuff coming around the corner. Yes. And indeed. I just said, you have to stay with it. Please don't get discouraged. We started taking our dogs for walks every afternoon now. I make sure I get them out at the end of my workday. We take the dogs for a walk just to get them out. But right after that, I noticed things starting to get better. But it was really tough because he puts in so much time, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. But it's just, you have to have a partnership. You have to have somebody to be there for you and say, it's going to work out. You just have to stick in it a little bit longer.
Oh, that's awesome, Kristy. Yes, thank you for sharing. And Mike, what was going on your end when you're in the office 7 days a week? And
what's keeping me in the office so long?
Or during that time that that Kristy was sharing, that sort of kind of got you to that point.
Yes, it's been quite a ride, and it's been very good. I'm not sure if we actually got the introduction at the beginning of this, but We are at about 1,000 units at this point as a general partner. And most of that has come over the last 15 months. We've closed just in the last 12 months, about probably, 6 properties, which is once every 2 months. That's kind of, incredible to even say that. It's kind of even hard to believe, but
yeah,
that's been the good and the bad, right? It's really good, but that's what causes so much work. I mean, you can't just let that happen without putting in the time and the effort. And there's been some, losses. I mean, some properties we didn't get or spent a lot of time all the way to the end and then pulled out. I mean, that's happened. It happened one particularly. We've had properties where, the negotiations have been gotten really tough in the contract and we thought we were going to lose it, but then all of a sudden it came through last minute or different things. These days we close on a property in Fort Worth, Texas that, they wanted $100,000 hard down day one, right? And it's a hard thing to do, right? But and then there was time where we thought we were going to be walking away from it and losing that, but we didn't. And so just did definitely some challenges.
Yeah, I can feel that. I understand the ups and downs that come with all of these things, because it's like, there's so many variables, and even the whole economic situation right now is changing a lot as well. So that's something we have to also keep up with and keep in mind, especially when we have a fiduciary responsibility to our investors, right? And to the people that are partnered with us. So I think that's really good. And it makes me feel really good if I was investing with you, that you're spending this much time thinking about all this and stressing out. So, on behalf of your investors, which I don't know or I haven't worked with, I just want to thank you. But this is, people like you who've put the time in to do the due diligence and look at everything is what makes the world a better place. Because when you're efficiently allocating capital, that's what elevates the energy of the entire world. And so, we're doing all of our small part to make that happen. So thank you.
Yeah.
So now, as you mentioned too, we did not read the intro, and I did mean to do that, but you guys have $60 million in assets across 4 states. And you've grown exponentially in the last 18 months, specifically through COVID. But what I want to touch on is, because of this insane growth that you're going through, do you guys have any tools that you use to keep yourself on track with all of this? Like, is there anything that shows up in your routine maybe, or any electronic tools that you use? Just trying to put it out there for someone who maybe wants to walk in your footsteps.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the systems in place was a struggle. I mean, when you're growing that fast, having to come up with all of these things, because, your desktop can only handle so many sticky notes, right? So when you get to about 1,000, and the screen is that big because of the
Oh my gosh.
No, that's not the way to run it. But no, we use ActiveCampaign for our all of our investors, and communication with emails and newsletters, and sending out communication on that. That's been worked out pretty well. Google Docs, of course, is just, Google Sheet, Google Drive is good, because we can collaborate with different partners on using different things. We've been using that on the financials, especially recently. OneNote I use quite a bit for, to put all the different projects in different tabs and be able to kind of keep organized with that. I like that. What else? Zoom.
Zoom, of course. Zoom is like the universal value adding piece of software that everyone cannot be without. But what about anything on the time side? Like, how do you manage your time, to the both of you, to keep all this going?
Yeah, mine's on my calendar. I mean, I use a Calendly link, obviously, for setting appointments and so forth, but it's all posted up on my, I use Outlook for all, traditional calendar, and so that's kind of how I schedule it.
The Calendly link has been very successful for him. That works really well.
Yeah, Calendly's good. And when you go about your days, maybe for the both of you, is there like a set time in the day where you're focusing on just like asset management or the existing properties that you have? And then there's another part of the day that's focused on investors or, outreach or calls? Like basically, do you have a segregation between working on the business and then working in the business? Is that there, or how does that work for you guys?
Yeah, so well, it works around my own schedule. So another part, I'm very active in the asset management of all of these properties, right? And so, it's there's about 10 different properties in total, probably 7 different syndications. Some of the some of the syndications have multiple properties in them, but I get onto the asset management calls, so the property manager calls every week for every one of those properties. That takes up time. So then and that's not always my, setting up the time. So I have to kind of work around that schedule. And then of course the general partner calls that we get on the Zoom meetings for the general partners. So those 2 items take up a lot of my time. So then I'm having to kind of carve out time in between or before or after that for investor calls and for, I'm looking at new properties all the time and I'm on calls with that.
Got it. Very cool. So it sounds like for the most part, you guys have repeating meetings that happen over time, but it's basically on an as need basis. You have Calendly where your time is bound with people that you talk to, but then you're filling in the spaces with the time that you have for what you do. Is there a way that you prioritize your tasks at all? How do you keep track of what you need to do? Do you use like a software or maybe your calendar, or do you write stuff down to keep track of everything?
The OneNote, which is a Microsoft, part of Microsoft, is, I tend to use that. But Monday.com is another one that I'm starting to use through one of my other partners that is a very, it's very robust for that type of thing. Keeps you on track of where you're at as far as accomplishing, your needs.
Very good. Okay, cool.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
So in addition to your walks, what are some other things that you guys have adopted to help balance relationship and work life?
We try to go to the movies when we can. We have a movie theater that has really nice lounge chairs and you could bring food in. And sometimes I brought a blanket and I just, that's just like a nice little escape to go to. We have a Harley and a BMW. So we go motorcycle rides, just different things to get out with nature, for not with the dogs.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So right now you guys have, Mike, you have a business. Kristy, you're working a W-2. Can you guys talk about the skills that you bring over from each of those to help you in your real estate venture?
With my position, I help or put on events for our department. We have a small business unit that I work with, and I'm always putting on events. So the organization skills really help a lot. I've worked a lot with Microsoft Suite, so I have a lot of skills, with Microsoft Office, and so I'm able to bring that over to the asset management side, the underwriting side. If I could, do the construction, I would do it. Maybe in another career.
Yeah, maybe with a little bit of training.
Right? Yeah, maybe a little bit of training. But yeah, and I have a lot of people skills. I was in sales for 8 years prior to going back into executive admin. So I love people. I love talking with people. So down the road, we actually have a networking event that Mike and 2 other partners have started, and it's every month. So that is another thing that we work on once a month. Sorry.
Awesome. Very cool. And I think that's a natural fit. Now, what about you, Mike?
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur for quite some time. Like I said, it's always been in the marketing advertising world. So that's just about getting it done and taking on a task and and making sure it gets done. And that's where I probably got into the multifamily. I knew from day one when I started, I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to put in everything I've got to make it work and reel in every resource that I have in order to to do that. So it's applied pretty well here. I really enjoy it. Actually, there's so many benefits of the multifamily that I really enjoy that I didn't really have in the advertising world. One is just, the collaboration that goes on, right? I have all these great partners that I'm able to do business with, and I'm, growing these terrific relationships with all these partners that I like and I trust, and we're all kind of in partners in these properties, but you're sharing all these different ideas. You don't do that in the advertising world. You can't call your competitor and say, hey, what do you think about this idea, right? I mean, it'll be on the internet before
That's
8 a.m.,
right.
right, the next day. But in the multifamily world, you can say that all day long, right? You can share ideas, you can ask for ideas, you can ask for help, and everybody's kind of wanting to help each other. I also love, I'm fortunate to be part of this, like this RE Mentor Network. It's kind of coming through there. So I'm close to that organization. I'm a sponsor for their organization and for others. So new students will come to me and, to sponsor a deal. They had this, I was up on the Shark Tank as one of the sharks at one of their big events, which is kind of fun. But what I really love is being able to help others that are getting started in this business as well. And, we're all trying to climb up this ladder, right? One leg at a time, but it's nice to be able to have a hand down, really willing to grab somebody and bring them up, or multiple people. So I've been fortunate to be able to do that with some new students. I take a lot of pride in that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, as you should, because this is a very inspiring space. Whenever I explain to people about how multifamily real estate works and passive investing works, among some of the answers I get is, wait, that's legal? That's what I get. It's one thing. And
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that. And this is super cool. Those are all those types of responses is what I get whenever I'm talking to people who are new to the space. And I can see why you enjoy doing that, especially people that want to lean into it a little bit more and start potentially raising capital on their own and getting more active on the active side.
Yeah.
So I love that. Now, before we leave this topic and head over to one more before we start to wrap up the show, I wanted to ask you, if there are people that are looking to do what you guys are doing, or to take some of the skills that they have from their full-time work and transition it over into what you're doing, do you have any advice for them on how to start doing that, or how to start with what they want to do with what they've got?
Yeah. I mean, you just have to do it. I mean, it's a hard step, but probably just to look at it, try not to look at it as a big, overwhelming, giant mountain, and just look at it as, you can focus on one lane, or one skill that you might have, right? If that skill is raising capital, or that skill is underwriting, or that skill is asset management, or that skill is just bringing together other people, right, and partners. And wherever you feel like you can really be good at, get focus on that, which is really usually what you like to do and what you already feel like you're confident at. And there are so many other people out there that want to partner up with people that have your skill. I don't care what it is, right? And they're the ones that are like absolutely loving underwriting, and they love those numbers and the Excel spreadsheets, and they can stay up all night looking at that. Typically, they're not necessarily the capital raiser, right? And they look at you as like, oh, I need your service. Oh my gosh, that would just be such a relief to have somebody, right? And the same with the capital raiser person. And that's kind of me. I'm not really, I can underwrite and I can look and I work on Excel all the time, but I am far from the guy who wants to sit in front of a spreadsheet until midnight every night, right? I do not want to do that at all. So I find somebody that can do that really well. And that to me is like, what a relief. It's the weight off my shoulders. And so it allows me to focus on what I do best. And then when I start really getting good at it, I get to even get better at it, because now you're focusing even more, especially when you're partnering up with people that are handling those other aspects. And so you get better and better in your lane, and you become more valuable to other partners and groups. And that's what's happened with me. I have a couple different groups of partners that I work with, 3 different ones, and I partner with them on properties. and they bring me in just as fast as, I reach out to them and say, hey, what's going on? And because they know what I can do, and I've proven to them that I can bring value to the team. And I know those team members, and I know what values they can bring. And, same with Kristy, right? So we have our lane that, and that's an easier way to look at it, I guess, for me, because if you look at that whole multifamily, there's so many balls in the air, right? And elements that are needed, and you got to be good at every one of them, right? You can't be so at something, and, but it takes a team, it takes a village, right? And so you really depend on your partners a lot to do what they do best. It takes a lot of relief and pressure off of you.
Yeah, I love that answer. I think that what you said is dead on, because you have to be good at everything, right? If you're going to do this all yourself. And it's exhausting. It takes too much time. And there's, quite frankly, someone that may be able to do it better than you can, or that you can even think to do it, right? And so you never know until you build your network and start getting out there. So I think the things that you're doing with the networking group and getting involved with more people, that translates into more reach. And when you have more reach, it translates to more value, and more value translates to more deals and more net worth for everyone. So I think that that's a really incredible thing.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Now, last question I have, and maybe Sophie has another one, but last question that I have before we'll head off to the rapid round is, you guys have, and you just mentioned it, you have tons of partnerships, right? You're working with a bunch of different individuals on lots of different deals, especially in the last 18 months. Do you have any tips for keeping all of that together, or keeping that whole thing, organized and in place?
Sorry, I was distracted. We have a little dog that was starting to, we knew he was going to start barking there, so we had to let him outside.
No worries. The question was, how, with all these different partnerships involved with different people, is there anything you need to do to keep it all straight, like the relationships, or how that feeds into what you do on your day-to-day?
Yeah, well, I'm very close to all of my partners, right? So I talk to them all the time. Fortunately, it's not that I have a whole bunch. It's not like there's one team of 2 people that I'm on partners with 5 or 6 properties at this point. So there are some different GPs that are in those properties, but they're kind of the core operators. And then on the others are just some other operators. There's only like 2 others but I'm on calls with them all the time. So, we are always collaborating in different, current deals, future deals, and sometimes just, the asset management of what's going on in the property, or it's just keeping, close communication. And again, going back to what I said, it's really about those, doing business with people that you like. And, I've grown, terrific partnerships with these people. And so is Kristy.
We've been on vacation together.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
That's true. We did a Costa Rica trip this past year with 6 couples that were all, it's kind of a power mastermind is what it ended up to be. But we were invited to come along, and with a couple of my partners, and big property, one of our property managers, and everybody and their significant others, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
How cool is that? I love that.
Also, yeah. And what are your guys' maybe united vision for 3 years, 5 years down the line?
Or more properties.
Yeah, we
and for me to not have to work a W-2 full time.
That's good.
Yeah,
that is it. Yeah, for Kristy to get out of her W-2 and onto this full time, she's gravitating towards that now and getting better at that, or closer to that. And yeah, it's just growing the portfolio and the business. As long as everything is continuing on the way it's going, it's growing fast. It doesn't have to grow as fast as it is, and I'm fully prepared for it to slow down. That's okay.
Yeah, I've gathered that much. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So again, I said that was going to be our last question. Maybe Sophie had one, but I wanted to ask one more thing too, because Kristy, it seems like you recently wrote a book Can you explain what that's about?
Yes, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I have a book that I just recently published this past year. It's called My Secret Blueprint. And I'll be very quick, but when my mom passed 2 days before my 13th birthday, and when I became an adult, I was pregnant. I had questions about, my pregnancy, and I didn't have a mom any longer. And I was talking to my grandmother 5 years down the road, fast forward 5 years when my daughter's 5. I was talking to my grandmother, and she and I had the exact same craving when we were pregnant for our daughters. And I just thought that was so fascinating, and what a great little tidbit of information to know. And so I thought, well, if I have these questions, I'm sure other people do too. So I created a book, and it's a fill in the blanks book, and it's about you. It's about a person. And I've structured it where it's from the beginning of your life until you retire. I even have a COVID chapter in there, like what things have you been doing since COVID? But I try to make each chapter very fun and interactive. So if you fill it out and then your children read it, it is like your children you're talking to your children. And so it's just been a passion of mine my whole life. And it took me a year to update it. And I'm very proud of it. It's been selling copies, and I'm very happy about that.
Kristy, I love that. I'm going to buy one right after this.
Yeah. And I think, after we hit the stop record button, if you guys can send the link so that I can put it in the show notes, that would be great, so that all the listeners can get that as well.
Thank you so much. I'm really very grateful that you brought that up.
No problem. I'm glad that we could do that. So let's go ahead and head into the rapid round. This is the final segment of the show. And this is part of the show where we ask 5 people the same questions. Everyone gets the same 5. So hopefully you're ready for it. And they're meant to be answered in about a 30-second response or less, if possible. All right. So question number 1 is, what book has had the biggest impact on each of you? Why is that? And we ask that it not be The Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or the Bible, because we get that all the time.
Yeah. Well, the answer would be Kristy's book.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But I've read a couple of books on the capital raising that I've really enjoyed. I can't think of the title of them, but the content has been very knowledgeable for me. The Hands-Off Investor is one that I really enjoyed. That's got me involved on the investor side. I mean, again, I believe that's kind of where my strength is that when I talk to investors, or even my partners, they come from the investor side, and I want to make sure everything is, you got really good communication with your investors. You're transparent with everything. You tell them the good and the bad quickly, and it's just about building that rapport with them.
And Kristy, what about you?
Besides my book, I have not really had that much time for reading. That when I want to look up information about real estate, I will get on YouTube. So YouTube is a huge source for me. I can look up books on YouTube. I can get the cliff notes. Headway is a great app that you can get through a book in 15 minutes.
Cool.
Nice.
So anything that's related to real estate, that's what I try to just tend to do. So
Excellent.
Sorry, no specific book right now.
But she's good at spreadsheets for sure. She'll work on those spreadsheets for hours, no doubt about it.
And PowerPoint.
reading a book's worth of information in Excel or in Google Sheets.
Yeah, and PowerPoint. She's created PowerPoints for some of her presentations,
Awesome.
And slide decks as well.
Very cool. Number 2.
If people wanted to emulate your success, what's the first actionable thing that they could do to follow in your footsteps?
Wow, great question. I mean, it starts with the education. That's one thing about this business. You can't fake it, right? You can't, it's not like you can fake it till you make it. I mean, you got to dive in and learn. And you want to dial into podcasts like yours and any education source that's out there. A lot of it is free, between the YouTube videos and the Zoom meetups and things with groups that are in this multifamily space. And of course, all the podcasts that just offer a tremendous amount of knowledge and information. Well, if you can just get little nuggets out of each one little nugget out of each one, I mean, it adds up quickly. And then you do quickly start to really understand the process. Because it's not rocket science, which is funny, because at our last meetup, we had a rocket science guy who's a rocket scientist. And I said that to him, and, we were talking about it. And I said, yeah, it's not rocket scientist. He goes, oh, I'm a rocket scientist. It was kind of funny, but it's not, it's actually very calculated. It's the same. It's kind of been the same for, 100 years, really. I mean, there's different variants variables now that really changes that, but the basic strategy is the same, right? And how you make money on these multifamily properties and how you buy them and how you sell them and how you run them. But it starts with the education.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. So for number 3, what is one tool, process, or hack in the last 3 months that have helped you save time and or effort?
OneNote.
OneNote was Kristy's suggestion, because that was actually one of the problems, because of all these calls that I'm on with the management calls. I dove a lot more into these asset management calls with the property managers. Kind of starting out, I was really more just in the listening mode, but now I'm kind of more in the really interactive mode. And so, I'm handwriting, because, the conversation goes fast. And so I'm handwriting all this information. I just got pages of notes every place. And so I was looking for something like that. And Monday.com is another source that I'm gravitating to, which is the next step from OneNote. But OneNote allows me to put the notes in like a file system, kind of like a filing cabinet, where, I can take for each property, then has, the files that go to that property. And so it just keeps it organized.
Excellent. All right. Number 4.
If the people had to describe you with one word, what would that be for each of you?
Well, I'm a people person, very caring.
That she is. I absolutely agree to that. For me, it would be, in one word, I get it done, which is not one word, but I'm thinking of the word to, that might describe that, but persistent, I guess.
Yeah, I can tell you're a man who likes to do due diligence or do on behalf of others. And so that's a really cool thing. Yeah. Dependable is a really good word. I like that.
Dependable's a good one too. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Number 5, last question that we have for you guys. What small thing do most people not know about you? And that's for each of you guys.
Well, I hate to go back to my book, but most people don't know that I wrote a book.
There you go.
So I'm trying to get that out on social media now.
For me, maybe I don't know, ride motorcycles. We've been
that's cool.
Very active in that. I've ridden all the way down the Baja on dirt bikes several times in my years, and been more into the street bikes these days. But I definitely love that. It's a passion of mine.
That's really cool. I've always wanted to try doing something like that, but Sophie's been giving me dirty looks because she thinks it's dangerous.
It can be.
So right now, I just settle for e-bikes and do that, as much as
I have an e-bike too. Those are a lot of fun.
They're really cool. They're very cool. Yeah. All right. Well, Kristy, Mike, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. But before we let you guys go and off to the rest of your day, why don't you guys tell us a little bit more about how all of the listeners out there can find out more about what you guys do and what's in your world?
So my website is called mysecretblueprintbook.com. And it has information on there if you would like to order.
And for me, I have my website is Grow Cap Today, because then the grow your cap rate. growcaptoday.com. Actually, you can contact me through that website. I'm also on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and so please connect with me. I enjoy talking to people in this space, regardless whether you're a beginner or an experienced operator. I enjoy the relationships that get built out of it.
Excellent. Well, Kristy and Mike, thank you guys again for coming on the show. And we loved having you guys here. It was a great conversation. Lots of great takeaways for people who are looking to do exactly what you guys have done and build that side hustle into a main hustle and just a hustle in general from what I've been seeing. For you listeners out there that have listened all the way to the end, we want to thank you as well. And please, wherever you're listening or watching this, please like, subscribe, or interact with us. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know how we're doing, because we want to add more value by providing more incredible content with great people like Mike and Kristy here. So, and the more that you do that, the more that we are apt to get up there with the algorithm gods, and the algorithm gods will push us up the chain so we get exposure to more people. And it's just this beautiful cycle. So please do interact with us and let us know how we're doing. We want to hear from you as well. So once again, Mike and Kristy, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is Derek.
And this is Sophie.
We're signing off for the day. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.